Hello and welcome to Stories for Wonderful Children, the podcast where I share the recordings of the bedtime stories I've told my children over the years. I'm Dan Winella, your host and storyteller. Today's story is a continuation of the stories I told my children while we were visiting Scotland in 2008. We were going to Edinburgh Castle the next day, and so of course, Winella went to visit a castle too. I hope you enjoy the story.
The next day was the day that Winella and her family were going to go to a castle. So they got in their car. They drove to a castle. At the gates of the castle stood two knights in shining armor. And the knights in shining armor asked them who they were. And Winella's mommy and daddy told them who they were. And the knights asked them why they were there. And Winella said, "Ooh, I know, we're here to see the castle." And the knights asked them if they had an appointment to see the castle. And Winella's mommy said that yes, they did. And one of the knights looked it up on a list and said that they were on the list of people with appointments to see the castle. And so they signaled to another knight that was up on the wall of the castle to let down the drawbridge. And so the drawbridge went down, and...
Why does it went down?
Well, the drawbridge goes down so that you can cross the moat, which is the water that surrounds the castle. Remember how there was water all around the science center that we went to?
Yeah.
That was a moat. And some castles, not all castles, but some castles have a moat around them. It's to make it harder for people to climb the wall. And after they...
We're going to have a moat?
No. There are 3 different castles we're thinking we might stop and see, and none of them have moats.
Does any of them have real knights?
No. But they do have stone walls.
They do.
And at least a couple of them have soldiers, I think.
Soldiers?
Yeah, because that's all knights were. Knights are soldiers from a long time ago. So, the next thing they did, they went in and they decided to take a tour of the castle. And on the tour, there were several things to see. You could go and take a tour of the rooms of the castle. And you could go and take a tour of the throne room and the jewels of the castle. Or you could take a tour of the defenses of the castle, where they showed you how the castle defended itself if someone were to attack it.
Winella did the defenses.
And Winella's family, everybody wanted to do something different. Winella and Wally both wanted to see the defenses of the castle. Her mommy wanted to see the throne room and the jewels of the castle. And her daddy wanted to see all the rooms of the castle. So they agreed together to take the grand tour, which had everything. So they started following their tour guide, and the tour guide first took them through all the different rooms of the castle. And they saw the kitchen, where servants cooked food for everybody who lived in the castle. And they saw an extra big stable, and the tour guide said that there was a legend in the castle. The legend is the Duchess who lived in the castle. A Duchess is someone who doesn't have as big a castle as a princess, but she's still sort of a noble, and she can wear pretty gowns and jewels. That the Duchess who lived in the castle a long time ago had a flying horse, a Pegasus, and that this stall had belonged to that horse, and that was why it was twice as big. But that nobody actually knew if that was true or just a good story. It was time to go to the throne room.
Do you have any proof?
They have no proof. Just this stall that's twice as big. So after that they went to the throne room. And in the throne room, Winella got out her camera. She took a picture of the throne. And in the throne room, in the locked cabinets around the throne, they had crowns that had been worn by all the dukes and duchesses that had been in that castle. And Winella went around and took a picture of each one. There was a crown with a large sapphire in the middle, and a crown with a large ruby in the middle, and a crown with a large emerald in the middle. And there was a crown that was set with a whole bunch of smaller diamonds. Winella dutifully took pictures of each one. So
What does dutifully mean?
I mean, she was doing it because it was her duty to do it, because she had told Flippitygibbet that she would. She took pictures of each one, and then she realized she only had 5 pictures left. and they still had another whole day in Scotland. And she didn't think that any of those pictures would probably have anything to do with what Flibbertigibbet had wanted, but she thought that since she'd taken a picture of the throne and taken a picture of each crown with the jewels in it, that she should save the last 5, just in case something interesting popped up on the last day. And then after that, they took a tour of the defenses of the castle.
So Winella was going to be leaving on her 5th day?
Yeah. So anyway, then they took a tour of the defenses of the castle. They showed them how the portcullis worked. Well, portcullis is like a big metal gate, but it's all in one piece of metal, and it's held open by a rope. And if somebody attacked the castle and you didn't realize that they were coming, and so you didn't have time to raise the drawbridge or anything, you just took an axe and you cut the rope that held up the portcullis, and the whole portcullis came slamming down. And that would keep people from getting into the castle. They showed you how you raised and lowered the drawbridge, and Winella got to try it. And then they took them up on the castle walls and showed them how high the wall was and how there were arrow slits cut in the walls.
Arrow slits?
Yes.
There is.
Those are something that back a long time ago, if someone attacked the castle, archers inside the castle could shoot arrows at the people who were attacking through the slits.
Oh, how big were they?
They were about that wide, just wide enough to fit an arrow through, tall. And that way the archer could see out and they could shoot an arrow out, but it was really hard to shoot an arrow back in. They finished their tour of the defenses of the castle. They showed them a well, and it was important to have a well in the castle because that way, if there were attackers outside the castle and you had to shut the drawbridge and shut the portcullis and close the gates, if the people stayed out there for a long time, as long as you had the well, you would have plenty to drink. And then they had finished their grand tour of the castle. And as a last treat, they said that people who took the grand tour, the Duke allowed to sit on the throne and have their picture taken. Well, Winella was glad that she had saved her pictures in her camera. She and Wally both sat on the throne and each had their picture taken on the throne. So now she only had 3.
What color is Wally's hair?
Color is Wally's hair? Not sure. I think it's red, don't you? Pretty sure Wally has red hair.
I thought he had brown hair.
Well, I think it's sort of that kind of dark red color you see some people have. It's almost brown, but not quite. It's not that real bright red color. Well, anyway, they were done with their tour of the castle after getting their picture taken. And that afternoon, they were going to go to something else. And Winella had to decide what they were going to do that afternoon after they had lunch. She had a choice between going to a zoo or going to an aquarium. Now, Rebecca,
I would pick.
if you were Winella, would you choose to go to a zoo or to an aquarium?
I pick lie in bed and take a nap.
Okay, well that's not what Winella picked. Winella picked going to the aquarium. So, tomorrow night, I will tell you what she saw in the aquarium after they had had lunch, and what she used her last 3 pictures on.
Thanks for listening to Stories for Wonderful Children. I created today's story, but questions and witty commentary were supplied by my children. The music was created by Brandon Thompson. Your reviews and personal recommendations are the main way that new listeners find the show, so thank you for spreading the word. I'd love to hear your feedback, so feel free to get in touch via email or social media, which are listed in the show notes. Until next time, I'm Dan Wendelin, reminding you to tell someone you love a story.